In 1938, a German archaeologist examined a small, unremarkable clay jar sitting on a museum shelf in Baghdad. Inside it was a copper cylinder, and inside that, a corroded iron rod. To most eyes it was just another ancient pot. But to him, it looked unmistakably like a battery, an object that, if real, would not be invented for nearly 2,000 more years. The object is known today as the Baghdad Battery. It has been called impossible, a hoax, a miracle, and a misunderstanding. The truth is more complicated than any of those labels. To understand what this jar really is, and what it almost certainly is not, we have to set aside the headlines and look carefully at the evidence. The story begins near Baghdad, at a site called Kujut Rabu. The jar is generally dated to somewhere between the Parthian and Sasanian periods, roughly 250 BCE to 650 CE. This was a region of empires, of skilled metalworkers and craftsmen, sitting at the crossroads of the ancient world. It is from this rich and complex landscape that the artifact emerged. The jar itself is small, about 13 centimeters tall, made of terracotta. Inside sits a cylinder of rolled copper sheet. Suspended within that copper is a single iron rod. The copper shows traces of corrosion consistent with an acidic substance, and the top of the cylinder appears to have been sealed with asphalt or bitumen. The man who brought the jar to the world's attention was Wilhelm Koenig, a museum director working in Baghdad. In a paper published around 1940, he proposed a startling idea. The arrangement of copper and iron, he argued, resembled a galvanic cell, the basic building block of a modern battery. Fill it with an acidic liquid, and in theory, it could produce a small electric current. Here the facts are firm. Two different metals separated by an acidic electrolyte will generate voltage. That is simple, well-understood chemistry. Modern researchers in television programs have built replicas of the jar, filled them with vinegar or grape juice, and measured a real, if modest, output, often somewhere between half a volt and a couple of volts. So in a narrow technical sense, the question is settled. A device built like the Baghdad jar can produce electricity. That single fact is what launched 1,000 theories. If the ancient world could make a battery, the reasoning went, then perhaps history had a hidden chapter of forgotten technology. The most popular theory is electroplating. Koenig himself suggested the current might have been used to coat objects with a thin layer of gold or silver. Ancient artisans certainly produced beautifully gilded items, and some wondered whether a battery could explain how. It is an elegant idea, linking a mysterious object to a known ancient craft. Other suggestions followed. Perhaps the faint tingle of electricity was used in religious ceremonies, making a statue seem to carry a divine charge. Perhaps it had a role in early medicine, since some ancient cultures used electric fish to treat pain. Each theory is intriguing. None of them is supported by direct evidence. And this is where caution becomes essential. There is no ancient text describing the jar, no wiring, no record of its use, and no clear connecting points to draw current from multiple cells. The electroplating idea, while famous, has never been demonstrated to match the actual gilding techniques used in the region, which relied on known mechanical and chemical methods. Most archaeologists today favor a far more ordinary explanation. The jar closely resembles storage vessels used to hold sacred scrolls or papyrus. Over centuries, an organic scroll would decay, and its remains could leave acidic residue, exactly the kind of corrosion found on the copper. By this reading, the battery effect is an accident, not a design. So let us be clear about what is known and what is not. It is known that the jar exists, that it contains copper and iron, and that a device built this way can generate a weak current. It is not known that anyone in antiquity ever intended it as a battery, ever filled it with acid, or ever used it to produce electricity at all. The gap between those two lists is the entire mystery. The Baghdad battery is a reminder of how easily a single object can be reshaped by our hopes. We want the past to hide wonders, so we read wonder into a simple jar. The honest answer is that we may never know its true purpose, because the people who made it left no instructions. And maybe that uncertainty is the most fascinating part of all. A humble clay pot still has the power to divide experts and ignite imaginations after 2,000 years. If you enjoy mysteries where the facts matter as much as the legend, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. There are far stranger objects buried in our history, and we are only beginning to dig them up.